Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Women's Rugby Show. I'm Sam Byther, and today I'm here with a very special edition of Discussions with a Cuppa. I've got my mug, I've got a new background today, and we're going to be going into the Six Nations Round 1 preview ahead of this weekend's action when we see England take on Scotland at Castle Park and Wales travel to France in the Round 1 fixtures. There's no Ireland game or Italy game this weekend, so if you're an Ireland or Italy fan, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer till I preview your team's first games, as they're taking place next week. But today I'll be looking at England versus Scotland, like I said, and then Wales against France. About their team selections for this game, my predictions for the game, and also a bit of fact and a bit of preview of the game as well. But before I get into it, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Women's Rugby Show on YouTube, and check us out across all social medias. Have you done all that? Well, let's get into the video. Like I mentioned, the first game of the weekend is England versus Scotland at Castle Park in Doncaster, which kicks off at 3 p.m, live on the BBC iPlayer and BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra, and we'll be there. We can't wait for this one, and many of you have seen that England have named an astonishingly strong lineup. Helena Rowland starts in the fly half shirt, with Zoe Harrison sitting this one out due to what Simon Middleton called a COVID monitoring misdemeanour. Well, she'll be back next week. Well, the trio of Zoe Aldcroft, Lydia Thompson and Sarah McKenna all return to the starting lineup after missing the autumn internationals through injury. The legend that is Emily Scarratt captains the side in Sarah Hunter's absence as the back row continues her injury comeback. Bryony Cleal, Poppy's twin, starts at tight head for just her second cap 2 years after her debut, and Loughborough Lightning's Kath O'Donnell also returns, making her first appearance since the summer of 2019. What is a little bit staggering about the England selection is the strength and depth that they have off the bench, and the firepower as well, with players such as Shauna Brown, Tisha Harper, Amy Kirkade, Harriet Miller-Mills and Vicky Fleetwood in the forwards, and the Wasp trio of Claudia MacDonald, Meg Jones and Ellie Kildum, all ready to be unleashed on the bench on what could be a tiring Scotland side. And this is still with some players missing from the 23. Sarah Beckett, Hannah Bottoman, Abby Ward, Alex Matthews and Sarah Hunter all miss out on the forwards, and in the backs Amber Reid, who's still injured, the aforementioned Zoe Harris and also Abby Dow, who misses this one for personal reasons, and that is some serious strength and depth, and that's before we even consider what Simon Middleton called development players. And if we look at Scotland's side, and their head coach Brian Eason's actually named an unchanged backline from their 13-all draw against France in the autumn, which was their last outing. And Hannah Smith partners Lisa Thompson in the centres, and they're joined by their GB7's teammates, Chloe Rowley at fullback and Megan Gaffney on the wing, with Rachel Shanklin competing the back three. In Loughborough and GB7's Helen Nelson wears a 10 shirt, with Mary McDonald partnering her at scrum half. And also the Loughborough Lightning theme that runs through the England side also runs through the Scotland side, continues to run through the Scotland side, with loosehead prop Leah Bartlett being joined by her teammate Rachel Malcolm, who actually captains the side from flanker. And on the bench, Stirling County's Evie Gallagher could make a debut, where she's joined by three more Allianz Premier 15s players, in DMP Durham Sharks' Lisa Coburn, Saracens' Jodie Retty, and another Loughborough Lightning star in Jenny Maxwell. Unfortunately for Scotland, if history is anything to go by, then it may be a tough afternoon in Doncaster, with England having won the last 22 meetings between the sides, and in 9 of the last 11, Scotland have actually failed to score. In fact, Scotland, who are currently ranked 11th in the world, last beat England back in 1999, which was actually before I was born, if you can believe that. Despite the history books being way against them, I'm not sure the score will reach the levels of 80-0 that it did back in 2019 when Scotland last played in England. This is due to a number of factors. Firstly, Scotland will come into this game with confidence, thanks to their 13-all draw with France back in October, with the confidence showing in their name, the unchanged backs. As well as this, Scotland's key playmakers are on form with their Premier 15 side, with Chloe Rowley along with Helen Nelson and Rachel Malcolm both being part of successful top 4 Allianz Premier 15 sides, and Harlequins and Loughborough Lightning. However, I do think England will just have too much for the Scots. Their preparation's been so good, so strong and committed, but also the team being out's been so talented from 1 through to 23. But enough of my rambling for now. And earlier this week I spoke to England's Sarah McKenna, Zoe Aldcroft, Emily Scarratt, as well as coach Simon Middleton on how they felt their build-up has gone and actually how excited they are to get going in this year's Women's Six Nations. We touched on the Premier 15s and the development players really impressing. Does having all of them coming in just show the strength of the league this year and how much it's improved since it's been kind of introduced?
Yeah, massively. I think just from sort of playing games week in, week out, and obviously looking at results, like we can see how much that that table's tightened up, and it's like a stark difference from, let's say, like 5 years ago. So the league's in like an incredibly healthy position at the moment, and I suppose with those players getting so much exposure to that top level rugby when they do come into camp, like I said, there's almost like a seamless transition. There's obviously a good blend of EPS players within those teams, so I think that when they do come into camp, there's sort of similar calls being used, similar languages. Therefore, like that transition, like I said, it just seems like seamless. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and Sarah, touching on the Premier 15s, obviously you played on Saturday against Quins. Just how tough was that as a game, and how good of it was an advertisement for the women's game as a whole, with it being live streamed?
Yeah, I think not just our game, but there's been some like unbelievably hotly contested games, especially those teams sitting in that top 5. I think everyone's beaten each other once. So you can't sort of call those games at the weekend at times, and that's exactly what you want from the fixtures. So I think as a viewer at home, as a neutral, like it's unbelievable to watch. It's exactly what you want from, I guess, your Saturday viewing. And I think this is when we really sort of see how important that squad depth is, and developing those players, like we've mentioned, is that having back-to-back competitive games, you've really got to be, calling upon people who might not necessarily be in your first string, and then seeing if you can go toe-to-toe with oppositions when not everyone's up for selection through injury and whatnot. Because those games, if you have, I think some teams have had like 3 back-to-back really tough games, and then it came down to sort of who had depth at that point in time. It is unbelievably fatiguing and something that we haven't experienced before.
Is it slightly strange coming back into camp straight off the back of playing against some of your teammates at the week, and obviously you had Jess Breach in the back 3 for Quins? Is it slightly strange coming back into camp and being on her side as a teammate this week?
No, I don't find it strange, like in that sense as a teammate. I think the life between Premiership and England is tough. I think that's the strangest. That's even more strange to probably get used to, being in different environments and flipping between them so quickly. So, having calls for England and then having super similar calls with Saracens at the weekend. Like, I'm calling the wrong thing half the time. I'm calling England moves and Jess is hearing them. So I think that's the biggest challenge more than anything. I think that's the hardest thing.
And Zoe, I spoke to you a few weeks ago before your game against DMP. We mentioned how excited you were to get back into the England rhythm, into the England groove. Is that excitement still there, and is it heightened with the game coming up this weekend?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's really good to be in camp. Obviously, we don't know the selection yet, so I'm not sure if I'm playing or not at the weekend. But yeah, even just to be around the girls and training hard is really good.
Emily, how enjoyable is a week up in Doncaster being? Obviously, you've not been able to get out and do anything apart from being with the team, but how enjoyable has it been to be in a place that's different to where you spent a lot of the build-up?
Yeah, it's been really nice. Obviously, the weather has definitely helped that. Where we're staying is right on the racecourse, so a lot of us have got really nice views out of our window, and it's somewhere that we're able to actually go out and spend a bit of time outside. So that's been really good. I think game weeks are always different. Obviously, we've spent a lot of time training. We've been in camps most weeks for a couple of days, whereas actually now you can see the game at the end, and it's always a different feel. It's far more exciting. This is essentially what we've trained for. Everybody wants to go out there and play. If you ask most people, they much prefer to play than they do train. So this week has definitely been a different feel about it, and everyone's just buzzing to get out there and I guess see if we can put the fruits of our labour onto the field, which obviously we're all hoping that we can do.
And I noticed on, I think it was Jess Breach's Instagram story yesterday, doing a little bit of painting. What was that about? Do you know?
Yeah, well, obviously we are very restricted in terms of what we can and can't do. Obviously, normally when we're in camp, we'd go out for coffees, we'd go out, maybe do a bit of shopping, normal life basically went in our downtime, whereas obviously we're not able to do that at the moment. So I think a couple of the girls have brought some paint by number stuff with them, where you colour in certain numbers and whatnot. It's not for me because I was notoriously bad at keeping my colour in the lines. So, but some of the girls have just brought things like that just to keep them entertained. We've got some gamers who have brought their Xboxes and stuff. Again, I don't understand that, but they're, very occupied with that sort of stuff. It's just about finding ways of keeping yourself entertained when obviously you don't have the normality of just being able to go out or socialise as much as you'd normally be able to.
And finally, for me, how excited are you just to get out on the pitch on Saturday after the build-up?
Yeah, really excited. As I said, it's felt like a long training period because obviously the Six Nations was postponed, so we've had even longer training together. So all of us now are just wanting to go out there and play. Like, that's what we want to do. We want to go and, you know, compete against really good teams, play in the Six Nations. Everybody loves the Six Nations. So yeah, we're just buzzing to get out there now.
The second game of the weekend is Wales trips to Vannes to take on France, which kicks off at 8 PM and is actually also live on the BBC iPlayer. Wales head coach Warren Abraham has given 2 new caps in his starting lineups, both the players who have impressed so far in the Premier 15s, with Saracens prop Donna Rose and Sale Sharks scrum half Jess Roberts making their first appearance in a Welsh shirt, while Roberts' Sale teammate Telly Ruin Davis makes her first start on just her second Welsh appearance. As well as this extra scrum half Megan Davis, who's replaced the injured Ciara Bevan in the Wales Six Nations squad, could also earn her first cap from the bench. There are also 2 positional changes in the lineup, with Robin Wilkins making her first international start at fullback, and Gloucester Hartpury's Robin Locke sent to make her international debut at hooker after switching from flanker this season. With Carol Thomas, who's impressed us here at the Women's Rugby Show for Worcester, making her first Welsh appearance since March 2019. Like Scotland, there are also some GB7s named, with 2 players named in the starting lineup, with Jasmine Joyce and Hannah Jones both starting in the backline. And actually, all 23 of the Welsh players play their rugby in the Premier 15s, with 8 coming from Gloucester Hartpury, including the whole replacement front row, 7 from the Bristol Bears, which includes captain Sawan Lillicrap, 3 from Sale, and the rest split between Worcester, Saracens and Harlequins. And it's an experienced French side that take on Wales, with Gail Hermé leading them out in their home opener. Experienced players Jessie Tremolo and Safi and Dia named on the bench, but are still experienced in the starting 15, with Pauline Bourdon named at scrum half and Cumba Diallo packing down in the second row. There's one uncapped player in their side, with Emile Boulard starting at fullback, and she's joined in the back three by Caroline Boujard, which is going to be a commentator's nightmare, and on form Montpellier winger Marie Ménager. I think unfortunately though, it may be a tough evening for Wales, as alongside their slight stuttering build-up, with the surprise of a skills coach Rachel Taylor quitting, obviously haven't had a reason for that yet. The Welsh also haven't played a game in over a year, as they didn't get a game in the autumn, and to come back against France away is always going to be a tough ask. However, there's a slight saving grace for Wales, and that's France's often repeated failure to turn up, not to turn up or win matches against lower ranked sides in the World Rugby rankings. And with Warren Abraham's side ranked 9th, the French may slip up again. France are also missing their whole 7s contingent as they look to concentrate on Olympic qualification, and therefore missing big names in Romain Ménager and Carla Neeson, so it may not be as tight as some may think come Saturday evening. So thank you for watching this really special edition of Discussions with a Cuppa. I hope you've enjoyed your cup of tea if you've had one. I've certainly enjoyed mine, and I've also enjoyed chatting about this weekend's Six Nations preview. I'll be back again with content from Doncaster this weekend as England take on Scotland, some post-match interviews, some post-match reaction as well. And also I'll be back with you on Monday or Tuesday with a Six Nations Round 1 review, and then we'll go into next weekend's action as well. So thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Women's Rugby Show on YouTube as we aim to reach 1,000 subscribers, and also follow us across all social medias as well. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.